Hey guys, it's Meredith. I wanted to hop on here real quick to chat about my breast cancer journey, getting diagnosed at a relatively young age, and my diagnosis and the procedure. So I turned 40 last year and I got my very first mammogram. They told me that I had dense breast tissue, so they would most likely call me back. So I did get the call back and I had to go in for an ultrasound. Now, the ultrasound technician told me in the very beginning that, most likely we'll chat with you when we get the results back in. You may have the doctor come in and review some things. So in my head, I knew if that doctor's walking through the door, this is not good news. And in walked the doctor. So I kind of had a little, bit of a panic there when the doctor came in. And she said, there's some calcifications that we find. Usually they're harmless, but I just want to biopsy it just to make sure. So I said, okay, great. So, I didn't say, okay, great. I said, shoot, that sucks. So the next thing is the biopsy. And I keep thinking, gosh, this is my very first mammogram. I would like to kind of, have the experience before. Okay, we're going right down into breast cancer territory. So I had all my images, my mammogram images. I had my ultrasound images. My husband is a scientist. He's a cancer research doctor. And I showed him the pictures. I showed my friends the pictures. I Google searched these images so I would know exactly what calcifications are. And what types they are. So if they're fine, they're punctate, they're round, I looked at all the different classifications, and that is not good advice. I would not recommend doing that, but I'm just somebody who needs information. So I kind of went to town on it. So by the time I was going to the biopsy, I had diagnosed myself via Google Medicine with DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. So I go get the biopsy, and the results came back the day after Easter. So it's 5 a.m., shows up on my patient portal. I have to go to work by 7 a.m. So I'm looking at the patient portal. The report said atypical ductal hyperplasia, and they recommended getting it removed. So essentially a lumpectomy where they would come and take the part out. Okay, so not the worst case scenario. It was precancerous, not actual cancer yet. So I showed up at the hospital to have this precancerous area removed, and the receptionist at the desk asked for my name to check me in, and she said, oh my gosh, we've been trying to get in touch with your surgeon's office because they have not submitted your insurance for pre-approval yet. And I said, no, that there's got to be a mistake. I've already spoke with them and they told me everything was approved, everything was good to go, and nobody called me to tell me, that there would be any issues. And she goes, I'm so sorry. We have to get the approval before we do this surgery. So at this point, I'm freaking out a little bit and trying to get in touch with insurance, trying to get in touch with my surgeon's office. I never heard from them. They never called. They never, tried to get in touch with me. They just didn't show up for the surgery. And so we left. I realized I'm not getting surgery that day. We ended up getting a new surgeon, and I met with her, and she was the most fantastic doctor ever. She reviewed my mammogram images with me, and then she said to me, your biopsy was sent to a general pathologist. I want to send it to a breast-specific pathologist because you're on that borderline of DCIS, and I want to make sure that you don't have DCIS, and we've just got our bases covered. I said, okay, sure, yeah, kind of surprised it wasn't sent to a breast pathologist before, but we sent it off to the breast pathologist. So a couple days go by, and then I get the call that it was, in fact, DCIS. It was high-grade DCIS. And she says, I don't know how they could have missed it. It's definitely there, and it's high grade. So DCIS means ductal carcinoma in situ. Because it is ductal, it is right behind the nipple, and that means that they essentially said they had to do a partial mastectomy, which means that I would have had a little sliver of breast tissue left. And I was like, well, what would you do? Wouldn't you just get a regular mastectomy? I said to the doctor, and she goes, yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's your decision. So I said, yes, I think I would like to just have it removed. And because we're removing this one, I would just rather remove this one so that, you know, they're going to be the same size. And my fear and anxiety surrounding any future reoccurrence was very big. And I thought, because I was 40, I have a whole lifetime to get diagnosed another time. And I didn't want to do the mammograms all the time. I didn't want to have to do the MRIs. I'm severely claustrophobic, and I didn't want to get scanxiety. So scanxiety. That's real thing. And I just wanted to protect my mental health and not have to constantly think about getting these procedures done, waiting for the results, and just having that anxiety around it. So I decided to do a double mastectomy. So I will say that I made the decision really quickly to get the double mastectomy because I have cancer in my breast. So I want to make sure that it's removed and, you know, I don't have any reoccurrence. But living with that decision and knowing that a part of your body is now going to be gone, it was kind of hard, because I think, you know, when you get to a certain age, you start to love and accept yourself, and you're okay with who you are. And I was there. I was at that stage where I was like, okay, you know, I have a small chest. It is what it is, but I like my body. I'm dealing with it, because I was very small chested before. Once I made the decision to have the double mastectomy, there was a couple options. So one of the options was called flap, where you could take a piece of tissue, I think from the abdominals or from your lats, and they use that once they clear out all the tissue, and they replace it as real tissue in your body. I was told I was not a candidate for that one. The other options were that you could get the double mastectomy and then have expanders placed in, so essentially like growing your skin to make sure that you have enough room for the implant in your pocket. And then the other option was a direct implant, which is what I really wanted. And it was removing the tissue, and then in the same surgery, they put the implant in. So you're a candidate for this if you are small chested and you want to stay small chested. And that was me. I wanted to replicate my body as close as possible. So I didn't want to go bigger, and I didn't want to get the expanders. So I was able to do the direct to implant surgery. So I was so thankful for that. So I got the direct to implant surgery. And then the aftermath and the recovery is about 6 weeks long. So I would say the first week to 10 days were probably the hardest, as you can expect, because you're coming off the anesthesia, everything is tight. And for me, the worst part was the drains. So they have these drains that are connected to either side. They have tubes that hang down, and I call them little grenades. They look like little grenades, but they're basically pouches that collect the fluid and the blood and everything. So it just drains out from the breast. And I will tell you, I thought that these drains inside my body were about that long. And when I finally got them removed, she pulled out, I'm not even kidding, like that long of actual tube. So that was a bit surprising, but the drains were so hard because anytime that you stand up or move around, you've got to find a place to put these drains. So I had a mastectomy shirt where they had pockets on the inside. So I put the drains in the pockets, but then you have to think about sleeping. You have to think about like, oh, am I suddenly gonna get up real fast and not think about it, and then it drags you down. So it was, and there's also stitches that are around it that kind of hold it in, or a stitch. So that it just really hurt. So after day 10, I finally got the drains out, and recovery was a lot better after that. So for the type of surgery that I had, they made incision spots underneath the breasts. It was really funny because when I first met with the plastic surgeon, he goes, so yeah, you'll have a scar, but it'll be under your crease. And I was so small that I said, what's a crease? I didn't have a breast crease before. So I was like, oh, all right. I mean, I knew what it was, but Yeah, so they're right underneath here. I also had 2 lymph nodes taken out from my armpit, so I have a scar there, and then I have, you know, just biopsy scars all on this side. So I joke that I'm like a little Frankenstein right now, but so that was basically the surgery that I had. I think what's important is when you're young or younger, so I was only 40 when this all happened, you don't really know a lot of people that are diagnosed with breast cancer. It tends to be, you know, people older in their 60s, 70s that get diagnosed with breast cancer. So there was nobody my age when I got diagnosed that I knew that I'd gone through it. So that was really, really hard. So guys, I want to hear how you're doing, how your journey's going, and let me know how everything is. I'm wishing you all the best and happy and healthy days ahead. And part of the reason why I wanted to make this video too is so that, you know, if you are younger, just know that there are people that you can reach out to, their support groups. Susan G. Komen, I'm sure, can find you